Hi everyone, and welcome to the Great Botanical Journey. In this new series, I want to go behind the scenes and discover where all of our flowers come from. When I don't have it in my garden, I go off to the market, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of buckets of flowers, and I got to thinking, somewhere someone grows these, and I wonder what's involved. So the first flower up is the Cymbidium Orchid, and why? It is possibly the oldest flower on the planet, predating the dinosaurs. Well, I don't know if that's the truth or not, but I can tell you that the dinosaurs have gone and orchids reign supremely. So it's worth investigating. And so the journey begins right here at Ruby Orchids. And fortunately, we have Caroline here, and she is going to talk us through the process of producing orchids that we all love as designers. You know, we see the flowers, we pick the flowers, we design with the flowers, but do we really know the work that is behind them? So Carolina, thank you for being here with us today.
It's a pleasure.
Tell me about Ruby Orchids and how did it begin?
Well, my parents are Dutch and grew up in the tulip region where all the flower bulbs flower every April. They grew up with that in their blood, I guess. Decided to go on holiday to New Zealand to visit my auntie in '85. Came back and said, we're immigrating. So in '87 we came, and they did a few different types of crops. Started with carnations, then roses, and from the early '90s moved into Cymbidiums, orchids, very slowly, and grew more and more and more because it's a very lengthy process. And that's when it all started, really, Ruby Orchids. So an orchid is longer process than most other flowers. We can't just grow it from seeds. I mean, our process starts with a crossing. Seed pod will form on the plant. That takes about 12 months. Then it goes to a specialized lab where the seeds get turned into meristem little plants. That takes about 18 months. Then we get them back and we have to wait for another 3 years for first flowering. Full production is probably 3 to 4 to 5 years. That's if that's already an existing variety. If we're going from seed, we then get seedlings. If you're crossing, of course, all the little plants coming out are from two parents from the crossing, then the whole process takes a lot longer.
So is it a bit like when mum and dad come together and have 3 children? Are all of the children the same, or are they going to be different?
They're so different. Yeah, they take the genes from both parents. There'll be slightly different colors, different timing of flowering, different stem length, so many differences. So it's quite amazing. So we don't need the bees for pollination. We do for our own breeding within the glasshouse, we do our own crossing with pollination. The bees are helpful to clean our flowers. We get a little bit of honeydew on the flowers, which can turn dirty as they're growing. So we need to clean them. So the bees do come in and help clean the flowers, but they're not for us in the pollination process. We don't need them.
You don't. So would they be one of the dangers that you would sort of like to want eliminated?
The bumblebees for us, even though they pollinate, they do take the little pollen caps out in our flowering season, which makes the flower shrivel up. So for our export season, bumblebees are not great in the glasshouse. So we have special netting to try and keep them out naturally.
You see, I didn't know that because I just thought that all flowers needed bees, but this is not the case. When they're growing, how long does it take from each season? How long does it take from when it first comes? Is it called a spike or what's it called?
A spike. It comes out really tiny. You just see a tiny little green spike coming out, like a little arrow. And that takes a good sort of, every variety is slightly different, but about 8 to 10 weeks before it gets into a picking.
So would they grow a flower a week, or how does that happen?
So each plant, we only flower once a year but for a variety. So once it pushes out the spikes, Once it finishes, then we have to wait till next year. Some can flower for months. They just produce spike after spike slowly. Some are called flushers. They all come up at once, and within 2 to 3 weeks, they're all gone. So it's very variety specific. And that's when the breeding and the crossing process, once again, you try and select parents that have in their genes what you want. You know, do you want something that produces all season, very spread, or do you want something that in 3 weeks just gives you lots and lots?
So how long is the season for Cymbidiums?
So it's different for each grower. It depends what varieties you've got. So for us, our early ones start in, say, March, and we finish sort of October. There are some growers that go a bit longer, October, November as well. But that just depends on the varieties you've got in your arrangement.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I didn't know that. And so, like, there seems to be like a lot of work, is there?
Yeah, it's very labor intensive because the spikes naturally, as they come up and get heavier and taller, they want to flop down. So in nature, when you see orchids in trees, their flowers are always hanging down. We, of course, need them straight up for export quality and also so they can fit in the boxes. So we need to have super straight stems. So we have to guide them with an elastic all the way to when they're fully grown. If we take that off, it'll fall over and it will grow with a bend.
Because I do remember trying to grow them a number of years ago, and they got beautiful bends on them, which was fabulous for me. But you don't know what they're going to be used for at the other end.
And trying to get them, especially to America, to our overseas markets, we would not be able to fit more than 1 or 2 in a box, of course, when they've got a bend. So even though they're lovely to work with, it would be impossible to freight them.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It is just, it has been a real treat for not only me, but everybody else I know that loves flowers around the world. And isn't it great to know that from here, they could be at your place in a couple of days. Now, I really must off because I have a couple of arrangements that I feel like I need to address. See you soon.